Have you ever felt like your words are falling on deaf ears, no matter how much effort you put into a conversation? Or perhaps you've noticed that the more you explain, defend, or express yourself, the less impact you seem to have. It's frustrating, right? You've been taught that communication is key, but what if I told you that silence, not words, is your most powerful tool? Yes, silence, the kind that makes people lean in, the kind that speaks volumes without uttering a single syllable. Now, here's the problem. In today's fast-paced world, men often feel compelled to fill every silence, to constantly reassure and seek approval, especially in relationships. It's a common misconception, the belief that the more you communicate, the more she'll value you. But here's the truth. Over-communication can lead to diminished respect and lost intrigue. Women, especially those with a heightened sense of self-importance, often test your boundaries, seeking to see if you'll waver under pressure. The solution? Master the art of stoic silence. In this transformative guide, I'll reveal how embracing silence can shift the dynamics of your relationships, command respect, and ultimately crush her inflated ego. This isn't about playing games or manipulation. It's about regaining your power and embodying the strength that draws people in naturally. Stick with me, and by the end, you'll have the tools to become the man who doesn't chase validation but effortlessly commands it. 1. The art of emotional control. Let's start with an undeniable truth. Emotions can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. Picture this: you send a text and she doesn't respond. Minutes turn into hours and your mind starts racing. Did she lose interest? Is she ignoring you on purpose? The need for answers can be overwhelming, pushing you to double text, overanalyze, or worse, let frustration take over. Sound familiar? Here's where most men fall into the trap. They react impulsively, letting their emotions dictate their actions. Whether it's sending another message or confronting her about her silence, these emotional outbursts reveal a lack of control. And guess what? It's exactly what she's testing. Women instinctively seek to understand your emotional resilience. They want to know. Can you remain steady when the waters get rough? Can you withstand the silence without cracking? Stoicism teaches us a vital principle. You cannot control the actions of others, but you can control your reaction to them. When you react emotionally, you hand over your power, allowing her actions to dictate your feelings. But when you remain calm, composed, and indifferent to the minor provocations, you signal strength, a trait that naturally commands respect. Consider this. The next time you feel the urge to react, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this reaction necessary? Does it serve my long-term goals? In most cases, the answer is no. By choosing silence over impulsive action, you not only maintain your composure, but also shift the dynamic in your favor. Think about it. What's more intriguing? A man who's quick to react, constantly seeking reassurance, or a man who remains unbothered, confident in his self-worth? The latter exudes an air of mystery and control, qualities that naturally draw people in. Silence in this context becomes a powerful statement. It says, I'm not here to play your games. Women respect men who can navigate emotional waters with poise. They're attracted to those who don't crumble under pressure, who don't let their emotions rule them. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings, it means mastering them. True strength lies in your ability to feel deeply while remaining in control of your actions. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you faced an emotional challenge and chose silence over reaction? How did it feel to hold your ground, to resist the temptation of immediate gratification? If you haven't tried this approach yet, you're missing out on a transformative experience. In the end, emotional control isn't just about managing your reactions, it's about reclaiming your power. It's about showing the world and yourself that you're not easily swayed by external forces. By mastering this art, you set the foundation for a more balanced, fulfilling life. So the next time you're tested, remember, your silence is not a weakness but a sign of unshakable strength. Hold your ground and watch as the dynamics begin to shift in your favor. Stay tuned, because in the next section we'll explore how silence can strategically elevate your presence, making you the man who commands respect without saying a word. 2. Silence as a strategic tool. Let me ask you something. Have you ever considered the power of mystery? Imagine this: you're in the middle of a conversation, and instead of filling every pause with more words, you let the silence linger. Suddenly, the dynamics shift. She starts to lean in, both literally and figuratively. Why? Because silence, when used strategically, creates intrigue. It signals confidence, control, and self-assurance. Here's the secret most men overlook. Silence isn't emptiness, it's presence. When you choose not to respond immediately or withhold unnecessary words, you're sending a powerful message. You're saying, I don't need to prove myself. My value speaks for itself. And let's be honest, who doesn't find that kind of quiet confidence attractive? But why does this work so effectively, especially with women? It's simple. Human nature craves what it doesn't fully understand. When you don't always explain yourself or rush to fill the silence, you become an enigma. She begins to wonder what you're thinking, why you're so composed, and what makes you different from the rest. This curiosity is magnetic. It compels her to seek your attention rather than the other way around. Think about the typical dynamic most people fall into. A man feels the need to constantly check in, text first, or ensure there's no gap in communication. But in doing so, he inadvertently diminishes his value. The constant availability sends a clear, albeit unintended, message. I have nothing more important to do than chase your attention. And let's face it, that's not attractive. Now picture the alternative. You respond thoughtfully, but not instantly. You don't rush to explain every thought or feeling. Instead, you let your actions and presence do the talking. This shift is subtle but profound. It places you in the position of control, not over her, but over your own narrative. Here's a scenario. You're texting someone, and after a few exchanges, she suddenly stops responding. What do you do? The common response might be to send a follow-up message, perhaps asking if everything's okay. But what if you did nothing? What if you simply carried on with your day, confident that your value doesn't hinge on her immediate reply? This silence speaks volumes. It shows that you're not desperate for validation, that you're perfectly content with or without her response. And here's the kicker. This approach often flips the script. Suddenly, she's the one wondering why you haven't reached out, why you're so composed. She starts to realize that your attention isn't guaranteed, that it's something to be earned. This shift is where the magic happens. So how do you master this art? Start small. The next time you're tempted to send that extra text or over-explain your feelings, pause. Embrace the silence. Let it work for you. Trust that your value isn't determined by how much you say or how often you reach out, but by the strength and certainty of your presence. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever used silence to your advantage? What happened when you chose not to fill the gaps? Share your experiences in the comments below. Let's discuss how this powerful tool has worked in your life. And if this insight resonated with you, take a moment to hit that like button. It's a small action, but it shows that you're ready to embrace a more confident, strategic approach to communication. Stay with me, because in the next section, we'll dive even deeper into the transformative power of self-reliance and emotional independence. You won't want to miss it. 3. Embracing solitude for inner strength. Have you ever stopped to think about how much of your life is spent chasing external validation? Whether it's the constant need for attention, approval, or simply the comfort of someone else's company, many people fear being alone. But here's the paradox. Solitude, when embraced, doesn't isolate you, it liberates you. It frees you from the chains of dependency and allows you to find strength within. Let's face it, society often portrays solitude as something negative. If you're alone, you must be lonely, right? But solitude and loneliness are not the same. Loneliness is the absence of connection, while solitude is the presence of self. And here's the truth many fail to realize. You cannot build a strong relationship with others until you've built a strong relationship with yourself. Why is this so crucial in the context of relationships? Because emotional independence is attractive. When you're comfortable in your own skin, When you're not constantly seeking someone else to complete you, you project a quiet confidence that draws people in. Women in particular are naturally drawn to men who are self-assured, who don't rely on others to validate their worth. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who seemed completely at peace with themselves? Someone who didn't need the approval of others to feel whole. It's compelling, isn't it? That's the power of solitude. It allows you to strip away the noise, to confront your fears and insecurities head-on, and to emerge stronger and more self-aware. But solitude isn't just about self-reflection, it's about self-reliance. When you stop looking for others to fill your emotional gaps, you become unshakable. No rejection, no absence, no loss can break you because you've already found everything you need within. This inner strength is what sets you apart. It's what makes you the man who stands firm, no matter what life or a relationship throws your way. And here's the beautiful irony. The moment you stop chasing validation is the moment you start attracting it. When you're no longer desperate for someone's attention, they begin to value yours. Your independence makes you intriguing, your self-sufficiency makes you admirable. You're no longer just another person vying for her time. You're the man who doesn't need it but chooses to share it. This shift in mindset is transformative. It changes not only how you see yourself but also how others see you. You become a person of substance, someone who doesn't merely exist but thrives, someone who isn't swayed by the ups and downs of external relationships, because their internal relationship is rock solid. Imagine this. Instead of fearing solitude, you embrace it as a time for growth and self-discovery. You use it to sharpen your focus, to clarify your values, and to strengthen your resolve. You become the man who is comfortable in his own company, who doesn't need to be surrounded by others to feel complete. And in doing so, you lay the foundation for deeper, more meaningful connections with those who truly matter. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't see it as a void to be filled. See it as an opportunity, a chance to reconnect with yourself, to build your inner strength, and to become the kind of person who commands respect and admiration not because they seek it, but because they've earned it. 4. Selective communication. Talk less, show more. In a world where everyone feels the need to broadcast their every thought, where constant messaging and endless updates have become the norm, there's something undeniably powerful about restraint. Imagine this: you're in a conversation, and instead of rushing to reply or overwhelming the moment with your words, you choose to listen, to observe, and to respond only when it truly adds value. What happens? You stand out. The truth is, most people talk too much. They believe that filling every silence or maintaining constant communication will solidify their place in someone's life. But what if I told you that this very approach often has the opposite effect? The more you talk, the more predictable you become. The more you chase her with messages, the less she values them. Let's get one thing straight. Availability is not synonymous with value. In fact, when you're too accessible, when your words flow without pause, you risk becoming background noise. And here's the thing, nobody values what's always available. Women are no different in this regard. They're drawn to men who are intentional with their words and actions, men who don't feel the need to constantly explain themselves or seek reassurance through conversation. So what's the alternative? It's simple. Talk less, but make every word count. Your silence can be more powerful than 1,000 words. It creates a space for curiosity, a sense of mystery that makes her wonder what's on your mind. It shifts the dynamic, placing you in a position of control, not of her, but of yourself. Consider this scenario. You've just met someone, and the conversation is flowing. Instead of bombarding her with text the next day, you send a thoughtful message and leave it at that. No follow-ups, no just checking in texts. You've said what you needed to say, and now you let it be. This small act of restraint speaks volumes. It shows that you're not needy, that your life doesn't revolve around her responses, and that you're confident enough to let things unfold naturally. Here's where Stoicism plays a vital role. This philosophy teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own actions and reactions. You can't control how someone responds or whether they'll engage at the same level. But what you can control is the way you present yourself. By being selective with your communication, you show that you're deliberate and thoughtful, not impulsive or desperate. When you adopt this approach, something remarkable happens. You begin to notice a shift in how people interact with you. They start to value your words because they're no longer drowned in excess. Your silence becomes an asset, a tool that enhances your presence rather than diminishing it. But let's be clear. Selective communication isn't about playing hard to get or engaging in manipulative tactics. It's about recognizing the power of your own voice and using it with intention. It's about understanding that your worth isn't tied to how often you reach out, but to the substance of what you bring to the table. And here's a truth that's often overlooked. When you stop over-explaining, over-communicating, and oversharing, you create space for her to come to you. This shift is subtle but profound. It invites her to invest in the relationship, to reach out and make an effort, because she recognizes that your attention is not guaranteed but earned. So, take a moment to reflect on your communication habits. Are you speaking with purpose, or are you simply filling the silence? Are your words adding value, or are they diluting your presence? Remember, it's not about saying more, it's about making what you say matter. When you master this, you'll find that your silence can be far more compelling than anything you could ever put into words. 5. Detachment from superficiality. Let's be honest, how often have you found yourself captivated by a beautiful face or an alluring smile, only to later realize there wasn't much substance beneath the surface? It's an easy trap to fall into. Society bombards us with the message that beauty is everything, and we're conditioned to prioritize appearance over character. But here's the hard truth. If you're making decisions based solely on physical attraction, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Physical beauty, as enchanting as it may be, is fleeting. It's like an Instagram filter, dazzling in the moment but ultimately superficial. Stoicism teaches us to look beyond the surface and value what truly matters: character, principles, and shared values. These are the foundations of meaningful, lasting relationships. Yet many men get stuck chasing illusions, blinded by beauty, while ignoring glaring red flags. Think about it. How many times have you overlooked someone's incompatible values or disrespectful behavior just because they were physically attractive? And how did those relationships turn out? Chances are they ended in frustration or heart hatch, because you prioritized the wrong qualities. Here's the shift you need to make. Stop being enchanted by outward appearances and start seeking depth. This doesn't mean you shouldn't appreciate beauty, but it should never be the sole reason for pursuing someone. A beautiful exterior without substance is like a hollow shell. It might catch your eye, but it won't nourish your soul. When you adopt this mindset, everything changes. You stop wasting time on people who don't align with your values, and you start attracting those who do. Women who recognize your depth and discernment will naturally be drawn to you because they see that you're not like the rest. You're not swayed by fleeting charms, you're seeking something real. This detachment from superficiality also signals strength. It shows that you're in control of your desires, that you're not ruled by impulse or infatuation. Women respect men who have the discipline to look beyond beauty and appreciate the qualities that truly matter. It's not about being cold or indifferent. It's about having the clarity to see beyond the illusion and the wisdom to prioritize what's essential. Here's a challenge for you. The next time you meet someone who catches your eye, take a step back. Instead of focusing on their looks, ask yourself, do they share my values? Do they treat me with respect? Do they bring something meaningful to my life? These questions will help you see past the surface and make decisions that align with your deeper goals. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where you prioritized appearance over character? What did you learn from that experience? Share your thoughts in the comments below. It's a conversation worth having. And if this message resonates with you, take a moment to like this video. It's a small gesture, but it helps us spread this transformative Stoic wisdom to more people. Stay tuned, because in the next section we'll dive into how valuing your time and energy can elevate your entire approach to relationships. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. 6. Valuing your time and energy. Imagine for a moment that your time and energy are like a precious vault of gold. Every interaction, every commitment, every moment you give to someone is a withdrawal from that vault. Now ask yourself, how often have you spent this invaluable currency on people who didn't deserve it? How often have you invested your time and energy in someone who offered nothing in return? No growth, no genuine connection, no shared values. Here's a truth that can't be ignored. Your time is your most finite resource. Once it's spent, you can never get it back. Yet so many men throw this priceless asset away, chasing after people who only take and never give. Why? Because they haven't learned to value themselves. When you don't recognize your worth, you're more likely to settle for less, accepting shallow interactions or giving endless attention to someone who sees you as just another option. This isn't just a waste of time, it's a betrayal of your own potential. You have goals, ambitions, and a life to build. Every minute spent on unworthy pursuits is a minute stolen from your growth, your purpose, and your future. But when you start to see your time and energy as sacred, everything changes. You become more discerning, more selective about who you allow into your life. You stop entertaining people who drain you and start prioritizing those who inspire, support, and challenge you to be better. This shift isn't about arrogance, it's about self-respect. Here's where Stoicism offers invaluable guidance. This philosophy teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions, our time, and our resources. By treating your time as a treasure, you're practicing a form of Stoic discipline. You're acknowledging that your life has value and that not everyone deserves a piece of it. This principle applies especially in relationships. It's easy to get caught up in the allure of someone who might be charming or attractive, but if they're not adding meaningful value to your life, why invest in them? A relationship at its best should be a partnership, an exchange of respect, support, and mutual growth. If you're the only one contributing, it's time to reassess. Consider this. Every time you say yes to something unworthy, you're saying no to something potentially great. Every time you pour your energy into someone who doesn't reciprocate, you're robbing yourself of the chance to invest in someone who will. So how do you start valuing your time and energy? First, by setting boundaries. Learn to say no to people and situations that don't serve your growth. Second, by being intentional with your commitments. Before you give your time to someone, ask yourself, is this worth my investment? Will this interaction bring value to my life, or am I simply filling a void? When you make this shift, something remarkable happens. People begin to see you differently. They recognize that your time isn't easily won, that your energy isn't freely given. This makes you more valuable in their eyes, not because you've changed who you are, but because you've shown that you respect yourself enough to protect your resources. In the end, valuing your time and energy is about more than just relationships, it's about living with intention. It's about recognizing that your life is a finite journey and choosing to fill it with meaning, growth, and purpose. By doing so, you elevate not only your own life, but also the lives of those who are truly worthy of sharing it with you. 7. Self-sufficiency. Standing on your own feet. Have you ever paused to consider how much of your life depends on others' approval? It might be subtle, seeking validation from friends, reassurance from a partner, or even the quiet satisfaction of being acknowledged at work. But here's the reality. True freedom comes when you no longer need external validation to define your worth. Self-sufficiency is more than a trait. It's a lifestyle. It's the ability to stand on your own, emotionally, financially, and mentally. When you cultivate self-reliance, you're no longer swayed by the opinions or actions of others. You become the architect of your life, building a foundation so solid that no external force can shake it. Why is this so important in relationships? Because dependence, whether emotional or otherwise, creates imbalance. If your happiness hinges on someone else's actions, you're giving them control over your life. This isn't just risky, it's a recipe for insecurity and dissatisfaction. Stoicism teaches us that the only true control we have is over ourselves. When you embrace this, you free yourself from the chains of dependency and become a force of stability in any relationship. Picture this. You're in a relationship, and instead of constantly seeking validation or reassurance, you bring your own sense of completeness to the table. You're not with your partner because you need them to feel whole. You're with them because you choose to share your already fulfilling life. This dynamic shifts the entire relationship. Suddenly, you're not just another person vying for affection, you're the stable, confident presence that others find deeply attractive. But self-sufficiency isn't just about emotional independence, it extends to every aspect of life. Financial independence, for example, is a cornerstone of true freedom. When you rely on your own resources, your decisions are truly your own. You're not beholden to anyone, which allows you to live authentically and make choices that align with your values. This kind of independence is magnetic. It signals that you're a person who knows what they want and has the discipline to achieve it. Women and people in general are naturally drawn to those who exude this kind of quiet confidence. It's not about arrogance or isolation. It's about showing that you're capable of standing strong on your own while still being open to meaningful connections. Let's talk about the emotional side. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean you don't care about others or that you avoid relationships. It means that you're emotionally balanced. You don't let minor disagreements or misunderstandings throw you off course. You handle challenges with grace and composure because your sense of self isn't dependent on someone else's mood or validation. Think about the last time you faced a conflict or a setback in a relationship. Did you react impulsively, letting emotions dictate your actions? Or did you approach the situation calmly with a clear mind? Self-sufficient individuals understand that life's challenges are inevitable, but how you respond to them defines your character. Developing this mindset requires practice. Start small. Take ownership of your decisions, your finances, and your emotional well-being. When challenges arise, remind yourself that you have the tools to handle them. Each time you stand firm, you're reinforcing your inner strength, proving to yourself and to others that you're not easily shaken. In essence, self-sufficiency is about living life on your terms. It's about being your own anchor in a world full of uncertainties. When you embody this principle, you not only gain respect from those around you, but also create a life of fulfillment and purpose. You become the kind of person who isn't just surviving but thriving, confidently navigating life's complexities with a sense of peace and control. By cultivating self-sufficiency, you elevate not only your relationships but also your entire approach to life. You become someone who's admired not for what they need from others, but for what they bring to the table. That's a level of respect and admiration that few can command, and it all starts with standing firmly on your own 2 feet. 8. The power of silence in action. Let's strip things down to their essence. Silence. In a world full of noise, texts, calls, social media updates, silence is a rare commodity. And yet, it's one of the most powerful tools you have. When used correctly, silence can shift the balance of power, create intrigue, and most importantly, command respect. But silence is often misunderstood. Many see it as a void, something uncomfortable that must be filled. They rush to break it, fearing it signals disinterest or awkwardness. However, true mastery lies in understanding that silence is not the absence of communication. It's a different kind of communication altogether. Here's the secret. Silence is a statement. It says, I'm in control of my emotions. I don't need to react immediately to seek your approval or fill the space between us. When you choose to be silent in moments of tension or uncertainty, you show that you're not easily rattled. Consider this scenario. You're in a heated discussion, and she throws a provocative comment your way, perhaps expecting you to react emotionally. Most people would jump in, trying to explain or defend themselves, but a stoic man knows better. He pauses, lets the silence hang in the air. This unexpected calmness speaks volumes. It forces her to reconsider her approach and often diffuses the tension. Silence also shifts the focus. When you stop speaking, she starts reflecting on her words, her actions, and even on you. Suddenly, you're not the reactive partner who's always on edge. You're the composed man who's unshaken by trivial matters. This kind of presence is not just respected, it's deeply attractive. But silence isn't just about handling conflict, it's also about creating intrigue. Imagine this. After a great conversation, instead of bombarding her with messages to keep the momentum going, you step back. You allow silence to do its work. What happens? She starts to wonder about you. What are you thinking? Why aren't you chasing after her like everyone else? This silence builds curiosity and anticipation. It creates a gap that she'll want to fill by reaching out to you. In this way, silence turns the tables. It's no longer about you chasing her, it's about her seeking you. Now, let's address a critical aspect. Silence doesn't mean indifference or emotional coldness. It's not about ignoring or neglecting someone. Instead, it's about knowing when to speak and when to let your presence do the talking. It's about showing that you don't need to fill every moment with noise to assert your value. There's a fine balance to strike here. Silence, when overused, can create distance. But when wielded with intention, it enhances your presence and deepens connections. It shows that you're thoughtful, deliberate, and not driven by impulsive desires. Mastering silence is a skill that takes practice. Start by recognizing moments where silence can speak louder than words. When faced with a challenge, resist the urge to react immediately. When in a conversation, allow pauses to happen naturally without rushing to fill them. Over time, you'll notice how much more impactful your words and actions become when they're interwoven through a strategic use of silence. Ultimately, the power of silence lies in its ability to convey strength and confidence. It's a tool that separates you from the crowd, making you someone who doesn't need to compete for attention, but naturally commands it. When you understand this, you unlock a new level of influence, not through force, but through the quiet power of restraint. 9. Prioritizing your time and energy. Time is the one resource we can never get back. I think about it. Every second you spend chasing someone who doesn't reciprocate, every minute you dedicate to fruitless conversations, and every hour you invest in people who don't value you is time you'll never recover. Yet so many of us squander this precious resource as if it's infinite, especially when it comes to relationships. Here's a question. How often do you find yourself prioritizing someone who wouldn't do the same for you? Maybe you've rearranged your schedule for them, only to have them cancel at the last minute. Or perhaps you've spent hours listening to their problems, only to realize they don't show the same interest in your life. Why do we do this? Because we've been conditioned to believe that constant availability equals love, that sacrificing our time is a sign of devotion. But here's the reality. People respect what they have to earn. When you give your time and energy freely to someone who hasn't demonstrated that they deserve it, you diminish its value. This doesn't mean you should withhold your attention as a form of manipulation. It means you should be intentional about where and with whom you invest your most valuable assets. Stoicism teaches us to recognize what is within our control and what isn't. You can't control how others treat your time, but you can control how much of it you offer them. This shift in perspective is liberating. Instead of feeling like a victim when someone wastes your time, you take responsibility for protecting it. Let's break this down. Your time is your currency, and how you spend it reveals your priorities. If you're constantly giving it away to people who don't enrich your life, you're essentially telling the world and yourself that your time isn't valuable. But when you start being selective, when you begin to treat your time as a scarce and precious resource, you send a different message. You show that you respect yourself enough to say no, to set boundaries, and to only engage in relationships that are mutually beneficial. This isn't just about romantic relationships. It applies to friendships, work, and even family dynamics. Every interaction requires energy, and not every person or situation is worthy of it. By learning to discern where your efforts are best spent, you create space for people and activities that truly matter. Here's a simple exercise. At the end of each day, reflect on how you spent your time. Were your actions aligned with your goals and values? Did the people you interacted with inspire or support you, or did they drain your energy? This practice helps you become more aware of your patterns and encourages you to make more conscious choices moving forward. Now, let's talk about how this applies to attraction. Women, like anyone else, are naturally drawn to men who have a clear sense of purpose and direction. When you prioritize your time and energy, you signal that you're a man with goals, a man who won't be easily swayed or distracted. This sense of self-possession is incredibly attractive. Think of it this way. If you're constantly available, constantly giving without receiving, you appear as though you have nothing else going on in your life. But when you're deliberate about your time, when you're engaged in your passions and pursuits, you become someone worth chasing. You're no longer just another person vying for attention. You're the man whose time is a privilege, not a given. Remember, prioritizing your time and energy isn't about being selfish, it's about being smart. It's about recognizing that your life is made up of finite moments and each one deserves to be spent wisely. When you live with this kind of intentionality, you not only elevate your own experience but also create a dynamic where others value and respect your presence. So, ask yourself, are you spending your time on people who truly deserve it? Or are you giving away your most precious resource to those who take it for granted? The answer to this question could change the way you approach every relationship in your life. We've journeyed through the transformative power of silence, self-reliance, and intentional living. At the heart of it all lies a simple truth. You hold the key to commanding respect and fostering deeper, more meaningful connections. The world may push you to chase validation, to fill every silence, and to prioritize others over yourself, but the Stoic path teaches otherwise. Silence isn't a void, it's a powerful presence. It speaks of confidence, emotional control, and an unwavering sense of self. When you learn to embrace silence, you break free from the need to prove your worth through constant communication. Instead, you let your actions, presence, and self-respect do the talking. By mastering your emotions, detaching from superficiality, and valuing your time, you create a life that's rich in purpose and authenticity. You become the man who doesn't just navigate relationships, you thrive in them, commanding respect not by force, but by the quiet strength of your character. Remember, Stoicism is more than a set of principles, it's a way of life. It's about focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you can't. It's about choosing growth over comfort, substance over superficiality, and self-worth over external validation. Now it's your turn. Take these lessons and apply them. The next time you feel the urge to react, pause. The next time you're tempted to prioritize someone who doesn't value you, step back. Let your silence, your choices, and your presence speak for you. If this journey has sparked something within you, share your thoughts in the comments. What resonated with you most? How will you start embracing the power of silence and self-mastery in your own life? And if you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who could benefit from these insights. Thank you for being here, for seeking growth, and for committing to your personal evolution. Here's to becoming the man who stands firm, commands respect, and lives with purpose. Stay true to your path, and I'll see you in the next chapter of your journey.